I heard that Devin Booker could potentially want out and want to be in a place like New York. I am in no way implying that he wants to leave Phoenix, but if Phoenix is willing to move on from him, New York is a place he is willing to go.
Alright boys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be discussing the New York Knicks potentially trading for Devin Booker. A lot of these players we've been talking about, we're not exactly sure where they're going to end up next season, whether they stay with their team, if they end up asking out. Maybe Phoenix decides that, hey look, we have Durant, Beal, and Booker. These three guys clearly aren't going to be able to work together. We traded all of our picks to make this happen. Let's sort of reset, pump the brakes, build through the draft and our young players. If Devin Booker were to be traded, Stephen A. Smith reported that he would not mind at all to be in New York, and it makes a lot of sense because what does Booker struggle with? He struggles defensively and he struggles with his leadership. That's not to say he's a bad defender, because if you look at the playoffs in 2023, Booker was at the top of the league in terms of blocks and steals. I mean, he was an absolute menace defensively in the playoffs, but this past playoffs, he took a step back. His leadership, even his playmaking, sure, he averaged 7 assists. He was much better than the previous years in his career. I mean, he averaged a career high, but he just never could actually run the point. Bradley Beal ended up taking the job from him because clearly the Suns weren't able to maximize the offense as well as they could have around Kevin Durant. So if Booker were to come to the Knicks, he'd be paired with Tom Thibodeau, who's one of the best defensive-minded coaches in basketball, and he'd be with Jalen Brunson, one of the best leaders, scorers, superstars, people in the game, and he'd be playing in Madison Square Garden, coming off of a 50-win season. I mean, the Knicks are definitely a hot commodity right now, but also, are they going to be able to afford Devin Booker? Now, technically speaking, they can. They could trade Julius Randle, and then they could pick up the contract of Bojan Bogdanovic, and they can move those two for Booker. The issue is that it's probably going to cost 5 first-round picks. If Devin Booker were to be traded, there's no way in hell it's not going for at least 5 picks and a couple of players. I mean, it's Devin Booker. Guys like that never become available on the open market. So if the Knicks, again, were to make a move, it would cost an arm and a leg. But to this point, I would do that. It might sound ridiculous. I'm going to get a lot of hate. You know, Julius Randle is a guy who has not had a good playoff run in his career. He's only played in 2 playoffs. He was hurt against Cleveland and Miami. I'll give him that. The one against Atlanta, you guys don't need me to tell you that, but Julius Randle also, he ends up getting injured. And the Knicks, they finish as the 2 seed. They win 50 games. If it hadn't been for an injury to Mitchell Robinson, Bogdanovic, Jalen Brunson got hurt. I mean, and Randle himself was hurt, but if it hadn't been an injury to even those other 3 players, the Knicks absolutely beat the Pacers and they go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And we saw the Knicks without Julius Randle in Boston at the end of the season go up by 30 points in the 3rd quarter, and then they took out their starters and the Celtics came back. They put up 38 points. But that's the thing, is Randle, there's really pros and cons to him. I think he's a ball stopper, but I also saw in the month of January when he was out there with OG that the Knicks played the best basketball that they ever have in the regular season in Knicks franchise history. They went 16-2. If an OG and Randle on the court together with Brunson, Devo, Hartenstein, Mitchell Robinson, I mean, man, is that as good as it gets? But it's also Devin Booker. Jalen Brunson and D-Book would be the best backcourt immediately in basketball, and that's saying a lot because Luka Doncic is a superstar. Kyrie Irving is a top 75 player really to ever play the game of basketball, at least in my opinion, the most skilled player. I mean, I know he struggled in the finals, but Kyrie Irving is a very good player. But Jalen Brunson, I'll take over Kyrie right now, and then I'll take Luka obviously over Booker. But I mean, we're talking about 2 guys that can give you 27 to 30 a night, 7, 8 assists on 50, 40, 90 splits, and then Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Hartenstein, Mitchell Robinson. You're able to keep these guys. Miles McBride. If that were to be the trade, I mean, the Knicks to me would immediately establish himself as a legit NBA contender. But the Knicks are also still a contender without trading for Devin Booker, right? If they just keep their core now, bring back OG, bring back Hartenstein, then they would still be a contender. So it's kind of, do we want to risk what we have and the chemistry, or do we want to go for a player that potentially, hypothetically in this scenario, would become available, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen with Book, but I could definitely see the Suns trading Booker and trading Durant. It would not be anything crazy to me. I don't think they will, but and then Bradley Beal has too big of a contract to be able to move him, so he would definitely stay. But in terms of Booker, he's on a 4-year, or at least he signed a 4-year, $221 million Supermax contract back in 2022. He's got a cap hit of $49.4 million this next upcoming season, 2024-25. That's a lot of money. but he's worth it. A guy who averaged 27 on 49% shooting, 36 from 3, 89 from the free throw line, also giving you 7 assists and 5 rebounds. Booker was one of 3 players in the regular season who ranked among the top 6 players in scoring and top 11 in assists, along with Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic. You look at January, Booker averaged 30 points, 6 assists, 4.4 rebounds while shooting 54% from the field, including 40% from 3. He also had a 3-game stretch where he averaged 50.1 points on 65.1% shooting, surpassing Michael Jordan for the highest field goal percentage by a player averaging 50 plus points over a 3-game span. You look at the 4 road games he had from January 19th through the 28th, he joined Wilt Chamberlain as the only players in NBA history to score at least 200 points over a stretch of 4 road games. Booker, though, in the playoffs, he shot below 50% in games 1 and 2. And then you look at game 3 in that series, he ends up shooting, it's kind of questioning why there's 5 games on this. So we're looking at what, the 20th through the 28th. So he shoots 5 for 16 in game 1, 6 for 13 in game 2, game 3, 8 of 15, 23 points, and then game 4 exploded for 49 and 13 and 21. So the thing is, Booker only had really 1 good game. I mean, I'll count the game 3 as good, but we're talking about a guy that's making, almost $50 million a year annually. Like, he's got to get it done. So, and Jaden McDaniels absolutely clamped up Booker and Bradley Beal, held them to a combined 23.1% shooting in the playoffs. So if Booker were to come to the Knicks, that could not be the standard. He would have to not only be himself, but he'd have to elevate his game. Jalen Brunson elevated his game. Josh Hart elevated his game. Dante DiVincenzo elevated his game. Isaiah Hartenstein didn't do the greatest against Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid's an amazing center, but against Indiana, he dominated the boards and elevated his game. So, Booker, he comes to New York, he's got to realize that, his leadership, his defense, they've got to improve, because we're trying to win a championship. Anything other than that's a disappointment, right? But also, the Phoenix Suns do not have the amount of talent as the New York Knicks do. Booker, Beal, and Durant, right? Big threes, they don't really work nowadays, man. You look at team like the Celtics, for example. I mean, the Celtics have Tatum, Brown, and Porzingis. I mean, I guess they're kind of, and Drew Holiday maybe even over Porzingis. Like, the Celtics are just kind of stacked, but the Celtics don't have a big 3. They have a big, like, 7, 8, right? I mean, they've got Derek White is a guy who might make the U.S. Olympic team. He's a guy that is really an all-star caliber player. Statistically speaking, maybe he doesn't average 25 a game, but he impacts the game as much as really anyone else in basketball. So the Celtics have a completely loaded roster, and that's what the Knicks are trying to do. And if you can only give up Randall, who I don't even know if I can trust him moving forward to begin with, and then also give up a guy like a Bojan Bogdanovic, who the only reason we're even re-signing him is to trade him. And then the 5 first-round picks, the Knicks have 8 tradable firsts. We've been holding these picks for a star, right? I mean, what are the odds we get somebody better than Devin Booker? Not very likely. So if Book does become available, there's absolutely no reason that the Knicks should not be all in on him. I don't care if we're giving up Julius Randle. You've got to go out and get him, because a backcourt of Jalen Brunson and Devin Booker would be unstoppable. I mean, it really would be, and that would just absolutely change the sort of outlook for our team moving forward. He's only 27 as well, so him and Brunson would be the same age, and it would put us in a great situation to succeed for the foreseeable future.